Welcome to the latest roundup of news and polls, and in fact the latest roundup and last roundup of news and polls this year, and what a year. Frankly, I'm going to be pleased to see the back of it, but let's have a look at the data. What have we been finding out recently? And the first is that most people are bearing up under the latest set of restrictions that the whole country is dealing with. Most of us actually say that it's been easier or pretty much the same to cope this time. Only a quarter of us say that it's worse than in the spring. And the main reason for finding it harder than in the spring lockdowns was simply that the weather is worse, so you can't meet people outside as easily. 4 out of 10 of us just saying that we're worn out by the whole coronavirus crisis. And a third of us a bit suspicious that some of the rules may apply to some people and not always to others. It's not fair in terms of what is happening. But overall, the country seems to have held together pretty well. And most of us, as I say, are finding it easier or just the same as it was before. There's only a minority who are really under the cosh. Having said that, it's worth reminding ourselves that the disease has not affected everybody equally. People in the poorest parts of Britain far more likely to be killed than people in the wealthiest parts from the virus. And, some of the consequences of it, of course, will be with us for years and years. But let's be more positive. At least now we have a vaccine, and most people in Britain say that they're going to take it. And the main reason for taking it is to protect other people from catching the virus. And I think that's really heartening. So people are as likely to say that they will take it to protect other people as they will to protect themselves. And I think that's a reminder that most people are, fairly altruistic in terms of the things that they're doing in order to tackle the virus. So those are the key reasons: protecting other people, reducing one's own risks and exposures. And again, 63% recognise that it won't work unless most people take it. So that real sense that scientists and GPs are telling us to take it, it is going to work and it's sensible. And overall, when we look at how we feel about people who might be trying to discourage us from getting vaccinated, the two most common words we would use to describe them were either stupid or selfish. And only 3 people in 100 think anti-vaxxers are smart. So I might be with the 97% who don't think the anti-vaxxers are very smart. But let's see what happens. But overall, it does appear that most people will take the vaccine. And indeed, in research that we're about to publish, the proportion of people who say they'll refuse it has actually now been falling since the vaccination programme began. So the NHS overall is regarded as having coped magnificently by the British public. Most people are satisfied with it and believe that it's got the capacity that it needs. But at the same time, 8 out of 10 of us in Britain say that this healthcare system's overstretched. And given the backlog that it's now facing, you can't necessarily disagree with them. But it's surprising, perhaps, that we are the most negative country on earth in terms of how overstretched our healthcare system is. We've got only 4 people in 100 who disagree that our system is overstretched. In Turkey, it's 34%. In China, it's 44%. In Poland, it's 48% who disagree. So we are pretty clear about, and compared to some of the countries on here, like Peru, which may not have quite as effective a healthcare system, it's perhaps interesting to see that. But I think it's a reminder of just how totemic the NHS is in British society. And of course, the key part of our belief in the NHS is the trust that we have in the people working in it. And this year, as every year, we've looked at the veracity of different professions, the likelihood of them telling the truth. And as every year, the people at the top of the chart are nurses, doctors, medical professionals. We've also added in another group of absolutely essential key workers this year, people who actually bring your deliveries to your home, and also care home workers. And both of those are trusted by 3/4 of us. So if the guy from the delivery company tells you your parcel was definitely left on your doorstep, well, most of us are going to believe that. And all of these people, of course, as you can see, many professionals there have much higher ratings than politicians. Only advertising executives in Britain are less trusted than politicians. And I think one thing that might cheer us up when we look at this over time, because there's still this sort of general thing that one reads about in the media that trust is in terminal decline and nobody trusts anybody anymore, is that actually looking back to 1983, as this chart does here, overall it doesn't really show a drop in trust in most professions. Doctors have always been very trusted. Professors have seen rising trust, as have scientists over the years. The civil service generally still 35 points higher than 1983. And the only profession as it's Christmas, and people who will be celebrating Christmas in churches up and down the country who've seen a fall in trust, the only people are actually the clergy and priests, and because they have some image problems all of their own. But most professions actually have seen rising trust. I haven't shown you politicians because we've never trusted them. Right back in 1983, we didn't trust them either. Elsewhere, we've been looking, as Britain heads for the exit door from the European Union, finally, maybe, somehow, we've been looking at how Britain regards itself and how Britain is regarded by other countries around the world for the Halifax Security Forum. We found that 2 out of 3 people globally believe that Britain still is going to have a positive impact on the world over the next decade. And that's much better than global attitudes towards China, which is heading to be the biggest economy on Earth. And in Britain, only 1 person in 5 thinks China is going to have a positive impact on global affairs over the next decade. And that's pretty much halved just in a year, showing how things are very, very different than when President Xi came and had a pint of beer in a pub with David Cameron. So Britain is currently seen as more positive for the world than NATO, more positive than the International Monetary Fund, more positive than America, more positive than Russia or Saudi Arabia or China, or indeed the International Monetary Fund. We don't do so badly, and sometimes perhaps we should remember that. That's all from me for now. Do have a look at our website. On the website, on our almanac, you can find articles about every aspect of life in Britain for brands, businesses, you name it, whether it's about vaccines, whether it's about Gen Z, whether it's about trans rights, it's all there. Do please have a look. And we'll see you next year. I hope you have a very peaceful Christmas and an even better 2021. It can't be worse than 2020. Thank you.